coders for Maribyrnong Libraries. My name's Andrew. Today we're going to do some random fun, random fun in space to be more exact. So this project is called Space Junk, and we've basically got lots of stuff floating around that you can click on. Got a frog in a space suit, all sorts of things, and we've got a spaceship that flies through at random times. So this is pretty crazy, and I reckon anyone who creates remixes of this will be able to do some even crazier stuff. So let's have a look at a template that we have on our studio, which is Maribyrnong Home Coders. So we have this template Space Frog and Stereo, and the reason we have this template is because the Stereo and the Frog are not standard Scratch elements that you can bring in as sprites. So the things that are different about them, well, the Frog has got the spacesuit, that's pretty different, but also the Stereo has the speakers that grow larger and smaller, which is kind of cool, and it goes along with the music that we had playing in the project. So let's try some coding. How about we start with the Stereo? So make sure you've got the Stereo selected, and we want to begin with an event. So when the green flag is clicked, we want the Stereo to switch costumes so that it's showing the big speakers and the small speakers and the big speakers and the small speakers. We always want the costume to start off on radio A, because you want the Stereo to look like it's off. So we brought over a switch costume block of code, switch costume to radio A. And then we kind of want it to float around. We want everything to float around in this project. It's all about floaty space craziness. So we're going to go over to motion. We haven't used motion in any of the projects that we've had on Maribyrnong Home Coders just yet. This is the first time. So we're going to use a bit of code that is called glide. So we'll bring this over. And this standard bit of code just wants to glide for 1 second to a random position, but we want it to glide for a random-ish time to a random position, because we're all about random stuff. So let's click on operators, and we have a pick random button. So let's click this over into that little bit of space. I reckon picking random 1 to 10 seconds should be pretty good. So that will change the speed at which our Stereo is flying around. So it'll either go slow or fast depending on how many seconds it takes to glide. Now we also kind of don't want it to go off the edge of the screen, because that would be annoying. So we want it to bounce if it reaches an edge. And there's a handy bit of code for that as well. So if we go back up to motion, there is a bit of code that is called if on edge bounce. So let's drag that over. And we want this to happen forever. So we're going to go over to control and use the forever bit of code. I'm going to wrap it around the switch costume through to the if on edge bounce, so that we get this whole bit of code happening again and again and again and again forever. So let's click the green flag, see what happens. Oh yeah, so it's floating around, and it's randomly chosen to float around pretty slowly. Let's see if we can get to an edge. Is it going to bounce? Yeah. Kind of flipped around there. That's kind of cool though. Now let's add some other things. So, how about we add some sound? That would be a good idea. So, oh yeah, I've already got some sound selected here, but maybe we could choose another one. So I had chosen Dance Energetic, which sounds like that. Pretty good. But we might want to choose some other sound. So we went to the Sounds tab, and we're going to click on Choose a Sound. Let's try loops, because there's lots of interesting things in loops. Let's try a few sounds. Classical piano. It's a bit weird. We could go with it though. Let's try that. So then we'll go back to code. And then let's choose an event. So what we want to do here is when the sprite is clicked, so when the stereo is clicked, we want it to play that music. So I've dragged over the when sprite is clicked block there, and then let's get our sound. Play sound, classical piano, until done. Let's see if it works. Let's click the green flag. Yep, that's working, and it's still bouncing off the edge. Great. Let's just stop that. And we haven't got any of the sort of speaker bouncing happening yet. So let's grab another when this sprite is clicked. And this time we want it to change costumes. So we use this code, which is next costume. But we want it to do that again and again and again. And I reckon we want it to change, maybe 3 or 4 times every second, because we want it to look like it's really banging. So let's go to control, and we'll find the wait 1 second. We'll change it to wait 0.25 seconds, which is a quarter of a second, which means that it's going to happen 4 times every second. And then we want this to repeat a bit, because we don't just want to do it once. Let's try a repeat 10. We'll see how long this goes for, because we probably want it to go for as long as the song. Let's try the green flag, sorry. And we'll click on it. Yeah. Doesn't really go long enough, does it? Let's try. Oh no, let's try 15 seconds. Okay. Ready? That was more like 20 seconds. So let's change it to 20 seconds. Stop and start. Yep, that's pretty good. Close enough anyway. So now we have a stereo floating in space, playing classical music. Wow, that's just like an old movie. Yeah, what about this frog? What should we make this frog do? I reckon we should make this frog float and croak. So we're going to start with the when the flag clicked event, and we want the frog to play a sound. So I reckon we probably want sound croak. Croak is already loaded into this file, and then there was also another sound that I want to play, which is big boing. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Now we probably don't want it to play when we've just started. So we in fact want a when this sprite is clicked bit of code. So let's start it again. So now if we click that sprite, yep, that's a satisfying croak and boing. Now we want to move our frog around because that would be much more interesting than a frog just sitting there in space doing nothing. So let's maybe rotate the frog a little bit, because a frog would be sort of waving its little feet around in space and going in weird directions. So let's use a bit of code that is called set rotation style. Let's bring that over, and then we want to glide just like with the stereo. So let's bring in this glide to random position, and we're going to use the same operator we did before, which was the pick random 1 to 10, which is in operators. Yep, so that's looking good, and we also want it to bounce if it gets to the edge, because we don't want the frog floating off into space where we can't see it. And just like the stereo, let's go over to control and grab that forever bit of code and wrap it around all of this code that we've created. So now, if we press stop and then we click the green arrow again, our frog is bouncing around in space. Pretty good. Oh yeah. Very nice. Now I'm going to change this set rotation style to all around and we'll see what happens. Is much going to happen? See what happens when he bounces. Not a lot. You can play around with that though. I don't think that's a perfect bit of code. But we do have a floating frog. So there we go. Now let's bring in some other stuff. So how about some cheesy puffs? Cheesy puffs, anyone? Yeah, let's do that. Cheesy puffs in space. And what do we want these cheesy puffs to do? Well, let's have a look. Let's start off with a when the green flag is clicked, the ball moves around. So we're going to go into motion, and this is going to seem familiar by now. We're going to get the glide to random position. Then we're going to go into operators and grab the pick random 1 to 10, pop that in there, and then going back into motion and grab our bounce if on edge. There we go, if on edge bounce. And you might remember we also went into control and grabbed the forever wraparound. So now we have our cheesy puffs in space. Wow, how would you eat them? That frog is not going to be able to eat cheesy puffs in space because of the helmet. Oh, it's so cruel. Let's press stop. And now we need some sounds. How about we go to the sound and click on the sound tab. What sounds would be good? Let's choose one. Maybe we'll go to effects. Let's choose, do we want cheesy puffs alert? Maybe. Yeah, maybe too much. Maybe a bite. Yep, that could be good. And do we want to maybe have another sound? What would sort of go crazy with the bite? Well, that's pretty weird. Let's choose doorbell. Alright, if we go back to code let's choose play sound until done. And we'll grab another one because we want 2 sounds. And we'll make this so that when the sprite is clicked, so when the cheesy puffs are clicked, these sounds play. So we'll kind of put those together. So maybe the crunch first. Let's give this a go. Let's click the green flag. Yeah, that's pretty weird. That is definitely bringing the random to this project. Yep. I think that officially sounds crazy. What else could we bring in? How about... oh yeah, a donut. Everybody loves donuts. Here we go. Let's choose from food. Donut. Yep. Donuts are awesome. So we're going to pretty much grab the same code that we've been using for all the other objects, which is when the green flag is clicked. Go to motion. We're gliding. Glide to random position. And we're going to use our operator, where it's picking a random number from 1 to 10 to decide how fast it's going to move along. And then we also want to go back to motion and make sure that we make our object bounce if it hits the edge. And we want it to do this forever. Yep. Let's see if this is working. Yeah. So that's a floating donut in space. Unidentified food object. So that's there. Now we probably want it to play a sound. So let's press stop and go to events. When the sprite is clicked, we want to play. Let's go to sounds and we'll select something. Down the bottom with choose a sound. What is a good sound for eating a donut? Is it a guitar? Not really. Donut alert? Maybe. What about... no. Yeah, it might feel like that when you're eating a donut. Bubbles. No, it's a bit quiet. All the other sounds, if they're playing, are going to drown that out. Yeah, car horn. Let's try that. So we'll go back to code and we want it to play the sound car horn until done whenever we click the donut. Let's click start and let's go. Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy. Now have you noticed something about this project? They're just floating in nothing. So let's bring in a backdrop. Let's click down here on the right side of the screen and choose a backdrop. And there just happens to be a handy space button just here. Should we choose kind of normal stars, or maybe let's choose that galaxy there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, one other thing we could add is an object that appears and moves through the project at random. I think that would be really good. So how about we choose a spaceship from our sprites. There's a nice default spaceship that is available in Scratch. So let's see, it might be in fantasy. Depends how you classify fantasy. Let's try spaceship. Oh, there we go. Rocket ship. Gotta know what they're called if you're looking for them. So, how do we do this? Well, this one's not as complicated as you might think. So I'm going to begin by changing the direction that the rocket is facing. And I'm going to do this in the costumes. You could do it with code, but this will also give us a chance to use the costumes area. So I'm going to select the whole thing and turn it on a right angle. If you're using a keyboard, you can hold down the Shift key and it will make sure that it kind of clicks into a perfect right angle. Let's click on the next frame and have a bit more practice. So I'm clicking and dragging, and now I have everything selected, and oops, just scroll down, and now I am going to turn it that way, holding down the Shift key, and once again we've got our whole rocket ship selected. Grab that little arrow thing here and turn, holding the Shift key. Perfect. Fourth frame. Click and drag, grab, Shift key and turn. And the last frame. So here we go. Grab those arrows, Shift and turn it. So now we have our rocket ship facing the right way, because I want it to go from left to right. That's just the kind of thing that I like in rocket ship movement. Now we're going to begin with making it animate through its frames, because we've got some really nice animated frames that are just there ready to go. We're going to begin with a when green flag clicked. Next costume. And then we're going to wait a tiny amount of time. I always like to put in wait 0.1 seconds. So I'm going to click in here and 0.1. And then we want a next costume. And go back to control and bring over this wait 1 second, but change it to 0.1. And we've got 4 frames, so we want to do this 4 times after the first one. So I'm going to duplicate some stuff. The easiest way to do that is grab the 2 bits of code you want and right click and duplicate, and then I can do the same thing again. Whoops, I just missed a bit of code there. And again. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should cover it. And we want it to keep going forever. So we're going to use that bit of forever wraparound code again. Okay, let's click the flag. There we go. Our spaceship is flying and looking awesome. Alright, so if we want it to appear at random, it's got to stay hidden at the start. So let's grab another when green flag clicked blocks here, and then we're going to go into looks and select hide. So that means when we click the green flag, that spaceship is going to look like it's not there. Now I'm also going to just move it over, move it to the edge of the screen as much as I can, because I want it to start here, and this is the easiest way of setting the next bit of code that we're going to do. So we want it to go to a certain position. So we want it to go to X and Y. So X is the horizontal and Y is vertical. So it's giving us a location on the screen that we want the spaceship to be in. Now I'm going to get rid of that bit of hide code just for now, so that we can check but it's definitely going to go to the right position. Okay, so we click the green arrow and it's gone to minus 303x and minus 17y, which is this spot here. It's exactly where we want it to be. So let's click stop. I'm going to add that bit of hide code back in a little bit. Now, we want it to just pick a random time to appear. So we'll go back into operators and let's see. We need this bit of green, but we want it to wait. So if we click on control, we've got this wait 1 second. Let's bring that over and we'll pop the pick random into this wait. Might make it wait between 1 and... oh no, let's stick with 1 and 10 seconds. And then we want the rocket to appear. So let's click over and grab a show. And then we want it to glide over to this side of the screen. So over to the right side of the screen, where the stereo is sitting right now. So let's grab motion. And we want it to glide to a certain spot. And how fast do we want it to go? We don't want it to be 1 second because we won't see it. Let's try 3 seconds. And we want it to glide over to here. So I'm going to move it over to where I want it to go. Now we're going to have to tell this bit of glide code where we want it. Luckily, we can see where we want it. Down here in the sprite information, just above where you can see all the little sprites here, we have an X position and a Y position. So we can just copy those. So we want our rocket to go to 282 and minus 9. That's where we want it to end up. And then we want to hide it. So let's go back to looks and find our hide code. And we might replace the hide code that we took away earlier. Alright, now let's see. And we might change the random waiting just so we don't have to wait forever. Let's make it 1 to 3 seconds and see what it does. So let's click the green flag. Oh yep, there's our spaceship. That's good. So it's going to do that every 1 to 3 seconds if we tell it that it needs to do it randomly again and again and again. How do we do that? We need that forever control, which comes in so handy. So let's just put it after that first hide, because we don't want it to, we're already hiding it at the end anyway. Let's click this again. So is it going to appear? Yep. Now it should appear again. Yeah, there we go. So now it's picking between 1 and 3 seconds to randomly appear. So let's change that back to the 10 that we originally had, now that we've tested to see if the rocket ship works. A couple of interesting things we could do is we could make the rocket ship play a sound when you click it, so it could be almost like a little mini game. So if you manage to click the rocket when it's zooming past, it plays a sound. So to do that, we use our when this sprite clicked bit of code. And then we need a sound. So what about, go to the sounds tab and select something. What sort of sound would, oh, let's go wacky. Would that be good? No. No. Oh, that's a pretty crazy sound. what about squeaky toy? Yeah, squeaky toy. So now when you click it, it'll make a squeaky toy noise. So we're going to drag this over and we'll click go. Now let's see how good my reflexes are. Oh yeah. I think the rocket should make a noise when it's going as well. How about we choose another sound to drop into the code here too. So once it's shown and it's gliding, let's try something really rockety sounding. So we want to use start sound because if we have play until done, it's not going to do anything until that sound is over. So we want our sound to go at the same time as the rocket flying, not before it appears. And I think there was a good sound in here, space ripple. Let's go into sounds and we'll see what this sounds like. Yeah, maybe we can do better. How about let's try and choose a sound. Space. Ooh. Wow, that's kind of cool. It's a little bit boring. Yeah, maybe a bit too ominous for a spaceship. Space noise. Ooh, that's pretty good. Space flyby. Yeah, that's the one we want. Let's click on that. Alright, so let's bring in space flyby. So we've already got our bit of code in. Let's change it from space ripple, which sounds like a delicious ice cream, to space flyby. Alright, let's click the green flag. Yep, that's cool. So now let's just pick some stuff. Yeah, I like that. So you could bring in all sorts of other objects and add those to your project and make it way crazier than this. But this Space Frog template is available for you to use. So you can go to Maribyrnong Home Coders, find the Space Frog and Stereo template and remix it. Bring in any code you like. Or there's another option, our other project, which is Space Junk. So that's one I did earlier, which has even more objects in it. So if I click the green flag, we've got our frog. We've got dance music coming out of the stereo. Space chair. So got our rocket. So yeah. Cool. So if you want to go and remix the project or do something from the beginning, feel free to do so. Everything's on our Scratch Studio, which is Maribyrnong Home Coders, right here. And it's been really fun. So thanks everyone who's been watching the videos and joining in. My name's Andrew for Maribyrnong Libraries.